bad, or you didn't want to talk to me, or told me to leave me alone, they told me very quickly that that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That it was not a good thing. It's not a good thing. That it was all my focus, all that had happened.
I kind of want to just get into it. Want to know your background story. You own your own business right now. I don't want to get too deep into that yet. I want to say that for a little bit later. Nayeli, tell me something about who is Nayeli? Where did you grow up at? What was your upbringing like? Brothers, sisters, and how was pretty much your upbringing?
Okay, so I was born in Mexico. Born in the city of Mexico. Yeah, born in the city of Durango.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was brought up.
Where's one of my wife's families from?
Really?
Yes.
Primas? I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
Primas are
There you go.
Born in the city of Durango, and my parents came here when I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
And we originally came to LA.
Okay.
So I grew up in LA for the first 5 or 6 years of being here in the United States, in a city called El Sereno. So anybody that's familiar with LA would know where El Sereno's at.
Okay.
And then moved to Anaheim in '92,
okay.
And been in Orange County ever since. I have a wonderful mom and dad that are still together, and huge. We're super close family. My brother is in Texas, so half of my heart is in Texas.
Okay.
And Houston, Texas, and then I have a sister that's a year younger than I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like when growing up, what were you guys like low class, middle class, like?
Growing
how
up,
was your
wow.
upbringing
Okay,
like that?
so
Financially.
yes. Okay, so let's talk about that. So it's funny because I remember having the memories of Mexico, and just knowing that we were very well off.
Okay.
And so for me it was always a confusion why we came here, and especially coming to LA. We didn't come to LA coming from what we had in Mexico, and then coming here, it was a very, very drastic change for us.
Okay.
We had nothing. Absolutely nothing. When my parents brought us here, we stayed at a cousin's house, a faraway cousin, not
Okay.
somebody that my parents were close to, and we were in a 1-bedroom. So it was my parents and me and my sister and my brother in 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
And
all of you guys in 1 bedroom.
All of us in 1 bedroom.
Okay.
And we were there for, I don't remember exactly how much time, but we were there for a long time, and we had nothing. My dad, was helping his cousin out in the painting business. And so I remember there was times where, they would be cooking and we weren't close to them. And now I think about it and I'm like, they were really mean. They would be cooking and they would never, we couldn't have anything of what they had.
Yeah.
And I remember that, we'd go out in the street and my dad would leave like $1 or something. He would leave to my mom, and we'd buy, and this is back in 86, 80, and we would buy like maybe like a bread, and my mom would literally slice it in 4 pieces.
Oh wow, yeah.
It was really, really tough. We were in a community where, if we saw a couch down in the dumpster, then we would bring it upstairs because we needed somewhere to sit. It was a really tough,
humbling times.
Yes, very much so. We had a cardboard box, and that's what was our table. And that was obviously for the beginning, 2 years out, from when we just got here. Obviously things changed, and my dad was a very hardworking man, and so very, very soon after that it was a whole different story. But that's how it was when we got here. So it was very, very tough. My mom obviously couldn't work because she had to take care of us. So it wasn't until maybe a year into us getting here that she got a job at Domino's Pizza so that she could deliver at night when my dad was already home from painting all day.
Okay.
And so that's how it was for quite a few years. And but my dad was a very, very, very hardworking man. So, very, very soon after us, like a year or a year and a half, 2 years into us being here, then obviously he was taking care of us at a whole different level. We were able to get a 1-bedroom apartment, and then obviously, new furniture as opposed to used furniture, and just things like that. So we had a very very humbling time getting here.
For sure.
And it taught me so much. Even though I was that young, it taught me so much. But it also taught me to see what hard work does and what hard work accomplishes. You know, like I've always said, like working works. You know, hard work works. It always does. So yeah, we, you know, after that we did. You know, my dad was able to provide us with a really good home, and you know, he was working sometimes 18, 19-hour days. He would literally come home, have a bite, and then go straight to sleep. I saw my dad always in 18-hour days. He would literally come home, have a bite, and then go straight to sleep. I saw my dad always in pain. Always in pain. His hands were always in pain. You know, it was just very, very hard labor, and he did it all for his kids and, you know, and my mom. So that's how we grew up. But then soon after that, obviously my mom couldn't keep working because she had to take care of us. There was 3 kids driving us, taking us everywhere. And so she was mom full-time, wife full-time, you know, housewife full-time. And she was very involved with us in everything that we did. And then obviously in the church that we were going to. So after that, it was, you know, it was a nice upbringing in Anaheim, growing up in Anaheim.
Wow. I mean,
yeah. My dad taught us how to start working very, very young. So he used to, you know, he always worked all week long, and then on the weekends he would sell at the swap meet. So anybody that's familiar with the swap meet, like La Mirada and things like that. So that's actually the swap meet that I grew up in.
La Mirada?
Yeah, because my dad used to sell furniture there during the weekend. So he had his full 2 jobs during the week, and then he sold there Saturdays and Sundays. And so he would take all of us, you know, with him, because he would take my mom so she can help sell, be talking to the clients and stuff, and my dad would load up things to the car and things like that. But they couldn't leave the 3 little ones at home, right? We were 9, 10, and 12. My brother was 12, so they sometimes would take my brother because they needed help. They couldn't leave the 2 little ones there. We have no family here. So they would take us along. So a year into going to the swap meet, I remember I was 11 years old and I started working. I would walk around the swap meet and go to the little different stands and be like, do you need a worker? And that's how I started working.
Started hustling,
I started working at 11 years old. Yeah, getting paid from, you know, someone else, and just kind of negotiating my pay for the day. And they would say like,
negotiated.
Yeah, they would say like, okay, I'll give you $30 for the day. And I'll be like, well, can you give me 40?
Wow, there you go.
And I was 11 years old. Yeah. So that's how I learned, you know, just the hustle and the hard work and the, you know, getting up at 4 in the morning to be in the swap meet at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting in, setting up. So that was my childhood from like 9 to like 13. So swap meet days every single weekend.
So you kind of grew up a little fast then.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Very, very fast. Yeah. I was 12 years old, and I remember I was the girl. I worked for the same guy for a year at the swap meet, and he started selling some polishes for the car. Okay. So I was the one actually at 12 years old doing demonstrations for the clients walking by. So I would be like speaking loud. It didn't matter who stopped or didn't. I was the one like flagging them down and saying like, let me show you real quick how this works. So you see your car, this is what it does. And I would jump in and I'd be like, let me just show you how this is going to shine. And I would do this. And I was, 12 years old. Yeah, I grew up very, very fast. Yeah, but you know, that taught me so much. For sure. It taught me so much of people and speaking to them and learning how they are. And it taught me really quickly that if somebody looked at me, you know, bad and didn't want to talk to me or told me to leave them alone, they taught me very quickly that that didn't matter. Yeah. That didn't matter, and that wasn't going to ruin my day, and that wasn't going to ruin my, you know, my hustle and my hard work. Oh, for sure. At all.
People are going to tell you no, right?
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly. And so, it's very okay with that. Yeah. I'm very okay with that. So yeah, that was my life until like 13 years old, when finally my dad was like, okay, you guys can stay home. You don't have to keep going sometimes. But at the same time, by that time, I loved working. I loved having my own money, because my dad, you know, would allow us to work and just keep our money. So at times it was more like, okay, I want to keep going. I want to keep you know, working. So
you want to keep on your own things and stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was a really good saver. Yeah. So, and I was a really good salesperson, and I was a really good negotiator. So if you know, we had to do something in the house, I always liked to have money, because I would tell my sister, well, if you do that, I'll pay you. Wow. I'll pay you to do my chores.
Like a true business person right there. Delegate, you're buying time.
Absolutely.
You were buying time back in the day.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, since I was little, I loved having money, because I could pay her to do something that I didn't want to do.
So even at a young age, you're already used, like, I mean, we'll get into this later, but like you're already used to, in your mind, saving money, being more thrift about it, right?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And you know what? That's something that I don't necessarily remember my parents teaching me. I just think that I liked having the ability to have the control to be able to like choose what I wanted,
okay.
and two, what I didn't want to do, so that I can pay someone to do it.
For sure. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very young. Very young. My mom tells me, actually, she says that I was doing that even like at 6 years old. She's like, you were doing that even at 6 years old. I remember I would come in and I would see your sister picking up your shoes, and it was because you gave her certain candy that you didn't, that she didn't have, and that you had saved or whatever. So yeah, that started very, very young. So that was my childhood. That was my childhood, growing up in the swap meet, selling, working, and then during the week, obviously going to school, being home, seeing my mom, my dad very late at night.
Yeah.
And very, very involved in church. That was since I was 10 years old.
And you're still very involved.
It's still absolutely. But back then it was a little different, because we were, grew up in a home with, where it was church pretty much 6 days a week.
Okay.
So very, very much involved. I mean, I was part of the choir, the missionaries, the groups, the youth, and anybody that grew up that way was going to totally understand the kind of words I'm using.
Yeah.
But
so
very Christian.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So very, very involved, and so that obviously kept us very. Just very, it obviously kept us very sheltered, but at the same time, very safe. We weren't out there doing anything crazy. One, we were not allowed to, and at the same time, we were always in church. So so it kept us very, at the same time, very young and very innocent in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it kept you young, kept you innocent, but like you still build that calluses of like, hey, look, when it comes to business is business. Don't take it personal, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, when I say like innocent and sheltered, I mean like in a way that I remember, being in junior high and high school and seeing my friends, getting in trouble because, believe it or not, they were smoking weed even back then, or things like that. You would hear these things, and I not once was in any of those situations because, one, I was not allowed, and two, being involved in church, it was always like there was a fear of not doing something that was bad or that I shouldn't be doing, or disobeying, or so that's kind of what I mean by very sheltered and just kind of very, very clean, I guess, and not getting in trouble and things like that. So, never really got in trouble till now. Just kidding.
So I know, right? I know. Look at you and started like, man, she's having fun. What the heck is going on over here?
Trouble. I was a good girl. So that was, back then I didn't understand it, and I used to be like, oh, my parents are so unfair. I can't even go here. I can't go there. And, very, like in my 20s and even in my 30s, I remember thinking, I'm so happy and I'm so blessed that my parents were the way they were, like that way. Because there's so many things that I'm glad I didn't get involved in, or I'm glad I didn't do, or I didn't try. And so. You don't realize that until you're a little bit older, right? Yes, exactly. And now, especially having daughters, 100%, I mean, life is so different than when I was, 12 or 13 back then. But yes, when we have our kids and they're in that age where we just want and pray for them not to get involved in certain things. Yeah. There's only so much we can do and we can control. Unfortunately, kids are gonna have to do their own thing and sometimes realize that's a mistake, or you gotta let them make mistakes, right? Yeah. You gotta let them make mistakes. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now you're growing up. You had your upbringing the way you did. You're in high school. You're graduating. Did you go to college? I went for 7 months. 7 months. 7 whole months. Well, this is where my life gets really interesting. So I was expected obviously to go to school, and again, part of the whole being sheltered thing, I didn't date, and I wasn't anything like that. So the very first boy that I actually start dating, he's the one I go get married with, and I don't have a wedding or anything. I elope. I elope, so we ended up getting married, and then I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Tried to come back home, but my dad was like, no, you think you're smart, you think you want to go get married, go. Here's another lesson you gotta learn. Go. That's your house over there. And so so at that time when I eloped and I went and got married, I was already going to community college. I was going to Cypress, Cypress College out there, and in Orange County, right? Yeah, and I went right after high school, so I was working at Bank of America and then going to school. Okay. And that's right when I got married. And so as soon as I got married, yes, I kept going to school, but things started getting very different with the person I married. He, he didn't really care for me to go to school anymore.
Okay.
And that's kind of when I was like, I need to go back home. This is not okay. But I wasn't allowed to. So 3 months after I got married, I got pregnant for my first daughter. And so at that point, maybe I went to school another 3 months, and then I got out of school.
Okay.
And so I was very obviously sick. I was 19 when I got pregnant. I was very sick. So I stopped going to school, and just, stayed home, quit the bank, and was just staying home because I was really sick all the time.
Yeah.
And so then I was always at the library because I love reading. I was always at Barnes & Noble's. If you're familiar with the area in Huntington Beach, there's Bellaterra. Back in the day, all there was Starbucks and a couple of other shops next to it. Now it's like a beautiful area there.
Yeah.
But back in '98, there was only the Starbucks. And so I was always at that Starbucks reading all the time while I was pregnant. And I was always in Starbucks at the same time.
Yeah.
And one of the girls tells me, like, you should work here. You're so nice. I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't showing yet, so I didn't say that I was pregnant. So I started working there. And I just worked there because I just wanted the free chocolate cake. So
things have not changed, have they?
Some things have not changed. So I just wanted the chocolate cake. But it wasn't a good thing because my daughter actually was born with, I had diabetes at the time.
Okay.
So I developed that because of this amount of sugar that I was eating.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily a good thing. And so I worked at Starbucks for a little bit, and marriage was not okay though. I'm telling you this story, but marriage was not good. I was so young. I already from the moment I married him, I knew like that's not where I wanted to be. So marriage was not, but I was there because I had no other choice.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to go. And so we had our baby, and as soon as we had our baby, I told my parents, I don't care if you guys don't want me back. I'm leaving him. I'm divorcing him. I'll go live somewhere else. I'm not, I don't have to come back to your house. And at that point, obviously, we had a baby, and they said, no, come on, you guys can't divorce. So we went into a little bit of counseling with the pastor, and then, at that moment, that's when I got pregnant for my second baby.
There you go. Things are good again.
We had homework, and it was to go and have a date. And in that one date, I got pregnant for my second baby.
Oh wow!
And at that point, I remember finding out. I found out 3 months later that I was pregnant at that moment, I remember thinking, don't worry about it. We don't have to go to counseling anymore. I'm not leaving. I have a second baby.
Yeah.
But during this time, I'm working really hard. When I was at Starbucks, I was learning I was in love and infatuated with candles. And I was learning how to make candles. So during that time, I was learning how to make candles, and I knew that I wanted to start selling candles.
Okay.
During the time that I was pregnant for my first daughter. So this is how my first business emerges.
Okay.
I'm learning how to make candles, and I'm buying stuff, and I'm in the kitchen with stoves and pots and learning how to make candles, and then making them and showing them to friends, and everybody's loving them, and then I'm getting creative with putting things on there. And as soon as my first daughter's born, a couple months later, right when she was born, I did go back, and I went back to the bank. At this point, I went to the credit union instead, but I couldn't take, the time that I was away from her. And I knew that I had something when it came to with the candles.
Okay.
So I quit, like cold turkey, I quit.
You just had something in your gut.
I just was like, I'm doing it. I just, at that moment, I had no fear. Even though I had a 2-month-old baby at home, I had no fear. I knew that I just needed to do this. So I quit the bank. And mind you, I'm 20 years old, right? I quit the bank, I go home, I start making candles. Since I grew up in the swap meet business, I understood how that worked.
Yeah.
So I remember not wanting to go to La Mirada. I went to the Costa Mesa Marketplace.
Okay.
Orange County Marketplace. And that's when I started selling candles during the weekend, because that's what I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
So I would make the candles during the week with my baby being home, and then on the weekend I would go and sell them. Well, that picked up so well that it was a matter of time before I opened up a cart at the Irvine Spectrum.
Oh, okay.
And then I opened up a cart at the Brea Mall. And so my business grew that way. So when the second baby was coming, I had no time to really stop and think that I was in a bad marriage. All my focus was the business and my daughters. That was all my focus.
Yeah.
So, people sometimes say, well, if you had such a bad marriage, why'd you stay there 3 years? 3 years is nothing, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all my focus was on the business.
Keep going.
Oh, all my focus was on the business and my daughters. So, you know, I have my second with my, and you know, so I'm pregnant for my second baby. I'm hustling, working, barely sleeping. Honestly, I think back and I'm like, how did I do that? But you know, I have my second baby, and as soon as I have my second baby, I started doing wholesale. So at that point I had the warehouse, and now I started selling wholesale because everybody liked the candles that I was making.
Yeah.
At that point, my daughter's dad quit his job. He was a medical assistant in a clinic, and so he quit to come for the business. And so at that point we're both doing it. And so I was just working really, really hard. I had my second baby and continued the business. It wasn't until maybe my second daughter was a year old that I started a second business, which was bath and body lotion. So I started manufacturing lotions and bath salts and body wash and all that stuff, because I also wanted to go into a different area. And then I opened up a storefront at the Irvine Spectrum. So the business grew really, really fast.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of work.
Oh, I'm sure it was
a lot of work. I mean, I was designing everything, designing the labels. And so I feel like I do have, I love creating things. And so I do love that portion of a business, that's just creating the looks and creating the logos and creating the aesthetics of it. And so my business, I was very blessed. Like, it grew really, really fast.
Yeah.
At that point, obviously, you got to remember we didn't have internet.
Yeah, we didn't have social media.
We didn't have the social media.
Yeah.
So, having my storefront at the Irvine Spectrum was, I remember having a line in the morning because they wanted to come and get lotions or whatever it was that I was selling. So, yeah.
During like the MySpace days? Was it MySpace yet?
This is 2001, 2002. So I think MySpace. I think MySpace was on, but I know I wasn't in MySpace. I was too busy having 2 little babies and and running a business.
Making money, Oscar. Sorry, you and your childish MySpace thing.
So yeah, I remember just working really hard and it wasn't until my second daughter was 2 that I finally divorced. Because like I said, all this time the marriage isn't good.
Yeah.
But again, my focus is all on business. My babies. That was the entire focus.
Yeah, that was like that was your other bubble then.
Yes, that was it. So yes, the marriage part was really bad. But in a sense, I was just as long as my mentality was, as long as I kept my daughters sheltered and we're not seeing the chaos and from that marriage, then it's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that chaos was pretty much in front of them where their dad didn't care to be aggressive or be kind of scary in a sense in front of the girls, that I said, okay, my sacrifice is not worth it anymore.
Now we're at this point of your life now where you grew your business, right? You went through all the trials as far as your marriage and stuff now. So where are you at now mentally after that? Like, where are you at mentally? Like, now you have your 2 daughters. You're finally divorced. You've gone through this. You're 22, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm 22 at the time. Yeah.
So where are you at mentally, and then what's your next move?
Where was I mentally then?
Yes.
Like after the whole thing? I took a year off. Obviously, after I closed the business, I took a year off because it was just a lot.
Okay.
So thankfully, I was very, very well off. So I had
Sure.
I didn't have to worry about anything financially.
Okay.
So yeah, I just took a year off, and taking that year off was everything that I could have done right at that time, because it gave me the opportunity to just really take time to heal, really take time to spend with my daughters, and just kind of regain the whole point of why all this was happening, and what was the good part of this happening, what was the good, the bad, what am I taking with it, what am I learning from it, and what can I do now, what was my next step, what was I going to do at that point. So yeah, a year after just taking that time off, I was in a whole different place.
Sure.
I can honestly tell you that a year after that, even though the girl's dad had done so many things to me and all that had happened, there was no hate in my heart.
Awesome.
There was no hate in my heart. There was no anger in my heart. There was no resentment in my heart. having gone through all this, I never felt like a victim. I never felt like, this is so unfair.
For sure.
Never. And I think it was obviously, I obviously can say that was all just God, and just my family, the way we were brought up, and the way we weren't brought up to sit there and feel bad for ourselves. And it was always like,
right.
So I didn't have any of these bad feelings. So not having any of those feelings, obviously I'm always a very happy-go-lucky person. So
Sure.
and I'm always I'm always positive. I choose to just believe in the good and believe in the positive of everything. So I was very happy. I was very happy with my girls, even though I had gone through this tremendous experience of loss in business, and having to close this, and having a divorce. I was in a very happy place. I was happy, I was with my girls. Yes, I was divorced. Yes, I had closed my business, but I was very, very, very happy.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So very, very blessed to be where I was at that moment.
So what was your next move then after that?
So I took a year off, and then after taking a year off, I did reopen my business.
Okay.
I was very strategic about how I did it, obviously, because in the eyes of the court, I closed the business for a reason.
Got you.
So I decided just to go into the wholesale side.
Okay.
And just did like the trade shows. There's trade shows that typically for vendors, they do trade shows, everywhere, Florida, Vegas. Yeah, so that's what I was involved in, and I did the trade shows. I only reopened the portion of the Bath and Body portion of it. So, making the soaps and the body gels, bath wash. So I started doing that wholesale.
Okay, so how long did you have that one going?
And then I also opened a warehouse, so I kind of did that for...
Wow, a whole warehouse?
Yeah, because of course, I manufacture it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I manufacture it. I wasn't just, buying it already and then just retailing it. I was making the product.
Yeah.
So, and that's what made the business very profitable. Anytime you can manufacture something, it makes it very profitable. A lot more than just buying it.
Because you control the cost, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. You control everything from where you're gonna place the product to what goes into the product, and you control everything. You control everything. You can deliver better product to your clients.
For sure.
At the price that you wish it to be, rather than being having to buy something from another carrier that you don't absolutely know exactly what you're delivering to your client, but you're just reselling it. So, so anyways, I did that for a good 3 years.
Okay.
I believe it was 3 years, yeah. And then helped out my brother a little bit because he was a real estate broker, and that's kind of how I just got introduced to real estate a little bit. He was a real estate broker, had real estate agents. I was doing very, very well.
Kind of like this office here.
Kind of like that, yeah. He did very, very well. So he got me into a couple of things there in real estate, and would teach me a little bit of like, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. So I would obviously bring clients to him and things like that. So I learned a little bit about it. I did work a little bit in a mortgage office, but it was a direct lender.
Okay.
So I did that a little bit, and I was like, no. I remember telling my brother, okay, no, this is not for me. Got out of it and went into corporate.
Went into corporate.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So went into corporate, and the reason I did that, the reason my brother wanted to get me out of, was trying to convince me, was because I worked really, really hard. So when I was manufacturing the lotions, and I reopened that portion of it, I was in the warehouse all the time. I was working all the time. I mean, I had my girls, there was a little room in the warehouse where I put a TV for them, because you got to remember, they're still 3 and 4 years old. I put a TV for them, little toys in there. I wasn't the kind that I would wait to see my daughters until 10 o'clock at night. I would bring them with me. Yeah. Because I grew up seeing that as well from my parents. They would, bring us along. And I just didn't want to be apart from my babies, so it was just me and them. So it wasn't, it was me and my girls. So I would bring them to the warehouse, so my brother would see that, and my brother would see how much work I was doing, and the fact that I was with my girls. And he's like, if you get into real estate, you don't have to put all this time. You don't have to be here until midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning working. You can take a little easier and still make really good money. Yeah. And that's why I think he wanted to get me out of that. Gotcha. So I tried it for a little bit, and I did obviously bring some clients to him, and obviously I did get to benefit from some great commissions. Sure. Right? Because we're talking about 2003, 2004.
Oh man.
Right?
It was
Yeah,
Good.
2005. We're talking
Yeah.
about 2005. So I got to experience some of those great big checks from just bringing clients to him. So that was fun.
Oh, I'm sure that was fun.
That was fun, but
Everyone loves closing day.
yeah, but at that time, you know, the reason I went into corporate and I wanted something a little bit more stable at that time is I was still, you know, in my 20s, but at the same time, my daughters had started school.
Okay.
And I wanted just something a little bit more stable.
Okay.
And didn't want to, you know, have the same schedule that I was having for them. I had them in private school, and I just thought this is, you know, I had met some great people during my business years that they were like, you know, you need to be part of our team.
Sure.
And so that's really kind of how I went into corporate. It was the owners of certain companies and the CEOs of certain companies saying like, hey, we want you in your team. We want you in our team.
Yeah.
It wasn't me just kind of like, let me look where I can find a job. It was more like inviting. I was getting invited to work
okay,
for them.
got you.
So that's really kind of how it happened. And yeah, I went to corporate. I mean, at this point, that's kind of like what was best for me. Closed the business down, because if I wasn't there, unfortunately, the business wasn't in a position where I could just hire somebody to.
You could self-run or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't. So yeah, I was in corporate for a while after that. I was in corporate for a long time.
So how long were you in corporate for? Now we're in corporate. What's your mindset? Because you know, when I met you, you weren't in corporate anymore, obviously. But.
Yeah. So I started in corporate, and when I just started, I was part of the customer sales. You know, I was like the lead for the customer service department, customer service / sales, and I remember, again, you know, I was always taught, like, if you're going to do something, do it right, and if you're going to be off and, you know, the cars, all of that stuff. But things got really ugly, and that's another thing that I experienced that gave me so much more just knowledge, and just definitely a lot more strength, a lot more fighter in me. It's just really got, like, seeing how people can really get, you know, I mean, it was not a good time, definitely.
Sure.
And I just, all my focus, you know, was just keeping my girls safe, keeping my girls, you know, happy in the midst of this turmoil, keeping them happy, and showing them that mommy's strong, and showing them that mommy's here. And yeah, you know, due to that divorce, the dad was around maybe for 2 years and then just disappeared.
Wow.
So I was mom 150% of my time.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was always like, never again. It was just me and my girls for a very long time. Yeah, and you know, and I'm sure it had to do with money, and I'm sure it had to do with all of that. Till this day, you know, I can never understand how, you know, any father could be absent from, like, their kid's life.
Yeah.
Or mom, you know, for that matter. I'll never be able to understand it. So unfortunately, you know, that is just something that, you know, we have to deal with. But.
And I mean, you're a woman of faith, so I mean, I feel like sometimes things like this and people like that enter into your life for certain reasons, right? To make you stronger, make your kids stronger. And I think later on, I mean, I'm sure you probably realize it now why everything happened. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like from that point, maybe you grew a lot stronger since then.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. I feel like it made me, I mean, you know, we can think about it two ways. Yes, I agree with you. We can think about it in a sense of, you know, things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Absolutely, I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
There's always a side of us, you know, when we're going through it, of thinking like, why is this happening?
Yeah,
and we kind of don't understand it. So there's obviously things that we have to learn about ourselves as well.
Definitely.
I was very young, and I can't necessarily, that's not my reason or my excuse, but it was definitely the moment that propelled the person that I became, and the woman that I became for my daughter. So yeah, absolutely. For me, it was just like, okay, I never had a time to sit down and cry. I never had a time to do that. For me, it was like, okay, what's next? Like, what am I doing next? Like, how am I protecting? I always had that fighting, and that courageous and that strength, and you know, I think it's definitely my parents, but you know, God just giving me that strength and that courage. But yeah, it was always that mentality, like, okay, what's next? Let me protect this, let me do this. And like I said, it was a tough time, absolutely, seeing how much somebody can really try to hurt you, especially somebody that's, you know, father of their kids, but of my kids. But
Oh, for sure.
But yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So.
You know, as a business owner, we put all of our earnings, everything back into the business. And our mentality is back into the business, because our focus is just to grow the business, right?
This is correct.
That's not the way to do it, though. You
It
know,
isn't.
it's not the way to do it. You can't put everything into your own business, because then you're not, you know, learning the leverage and aspect. And there's some great books out there that I would recommend that, you know, that teach you really that you need to pay yourself first.
Sure.
Paying yourself first is what's going to go ahead and set the tone for everything that you do in the company. So, you know, and paying yourself first includes things like saving for your retirement or putting money aside. Those things, you know, paying yourself first would include that. You can't sustain a business if you're not paying yourself first. You can't sustain a business that has no way of having the business owners financially sustainable and be able to have the mindset and the right mind to continue, you know, growing that business.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. And there's a lot behind it, but I mean, you know, for the sake of time, business owners are the, you know, one of my dear heart, because I know and I understand the struggles that come with it. And like I said, so that is the majority of what I like to focus on, helping business owners. How can we structure your business to, one, protect the assets?
Sure.
You know, two, how can we leverage your money so that we can put it in vehicles that we can grow your money?
Sure.
I firmly believe in having your money in different buckets. If you've read, you know, Tony Robbins' book and other books out there that teach you about different buckets, like it's very important to really diversify your money.
Okay.
So for business owners, you know, time can, we talk about time flies, right? So when you start your business, you're like, okay, right now we can't spend on save, or we can't put money away, we can't save, we can't get that, we can't think about retirement. Right now it's all about the business. Well, this is year one, and then 6 years later, guess what? You're still in that position.
Yeah.
You know, and you just, you know, I'm sorry, you just wasted 6 years of saving gains and just interest gain and compound interest that you could have been saving for that, even if it was $5 a day.
Yeah.
Even if it was $10 a day. I mean, we go to Starbucks and we can easily spend $10 a day. You can eat out with a friend and you can easily spend $30.
Easily, even if you don't go anywhere fancy.
Easily.
Just like you can go to
exactly.
or whatever.
Exactly. So, you know, it's things like that, being able to you know, change the mindset of seeing the what you have to gain, and not necessarily like, oh, $30 a day.
Yeah.
$30 a day, that makes it like, you know, over $300 a month, like, or $300 a month, like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. You know, you thinking about the grand amount instead of thinking about, okay, today this is what I'm going to do, instead of taking it step by step. So as business owners, you know, we put all of our earnings and everything that we're making back into the business. So unfortunately, putting back into the business, we don't allow ourselves to save. We don't allow ourselves to pay ourselves first. So that's why for me, it's important for me to teach business owners that there is a different way of doing it. And paying yourselves first is very, very important. And how you allocate, you know, that money is very, very important as well. So that's really what's going to give you the success of the business, instead of just being in a surviving mode. You know, instead of being in a surviving mode, giving you the thriving mode of building wealth.
Yeah.
It's not about a hustle mindset, it's a wealth mindset.
Yeah. There is a big difference, right?
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. It's just what we're talking about, you know, our parents, and especially in our Latino community, we hustle.
For
so
sure.
we're like, okay, hustle. And there's nothing wrong with hustling. Of course, it's great. But knowing what to do with that money is what's going to give you the wealth. So it's really about having a wealth mindset and really thinking of the future, not just thinking of, let me hustle now so I can have nicer things right now. It's about, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about building wealth for not just us, but for, you know, the legacy that we're leaving, our kids. What are they going to be able to enjoy? Our grandkids, whatever, you know, the wealth that we're building for our family.
No, 100%. I totally agree with you on that, because I feel like I know I see it in my own community. I see it with my, you know, my own peers and stuff, and myself at times, you know, I want instant gratification. You know what I mean? Or especially with social media now too, they want, I want to show off my new car or whatever it is. Like, it's cool, but like, you know, let's think about what's going to happen 10 years from now, right? Is that going to depreciate, you know?
Which it is.
It is.
A car.
Automatically depreciates, right?
You walk off the lot and it's like $10,000 less.
Exactly.
Yes.
So for simplicity, I know you did
You were here at the Legacy. You were kind of coaching some of the agents here what to do with their commissions.
Right.
So, for simplicity, when, let's say, a realtor closes a deal and their commission, just for simplicity, it was like $10,000.
Right.
This is, obviously, it's always pre-tax, or
Yeah.
it's like it hasn't been taxed yet, right? So at that point, and he is incorporated, what should he do, or what do you recommend?
Yeah. So that's, it's a great question, by the way, but that is exactly where it starts. You mentioned the incorporation. A lot of if we're talking about real estate agents, if you're mentioning real estate agents, not just real estate agents, but any other self-employed type of occupation, that they start maybe just immediately selling or making and selling or whatever the case
Sure.
may be. When I mention business owners put their money back into the business, that's what happens. So when you don't incorporate and you're not necessarily knowing where to allocate your money, if you get a $10,000 check, for money purposes, like for keeping the number round, $10,000 check, most of the new entrepreneurs put it back into their account, personal account.
Yeah.
That is. And so the minute that you do that, you lose all control of that $10,000.
Yeah.
Because once you put it in a personal account, you got to remember that $10,000 is not really what you earned.
Yeah.
And really understand of what your earning is from that check is what's going to make the difference, and what's really going to start building you wealth, start really building you,
Okay.
Your income. So first, you forget that 30% of that is just for Uncle Sam.
Sure.
We forget about that, right?
Always.
So we know that at least 3,000 to 3,500 of that 10,000 is not ours. But what do? We spend it.
Yep.
Because we see the $10,000 check. So if we are putting it back into our personal account, we are spending money that's not even ours. We're spending money that now we're getting in debt to, So one mistake is that we spent Uncle Sam's money. Second, we don't put any money aside for any more marketing. So therefore, that's why business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs go from paycheck to paycheck and not necessarily growing their business. And 2 years later into their self-entrepreneur occupation, they're still like surviving and thinking like, okay, it's going, I have good months and then I have really bad months, because they're not investing in their business. A portion of their earnings is not going back into investing on it. So that's how you go back into this cycle, where you're not allocating the money correctly so that you can survive, so that you can thrive in your business rather than survive.
For sure.
And at the same time, paying yourself, you're not paying yourself. So you have this $10,000 pool and everything's going everywhere. It's going into the car payment and the rent payment and this payment and that payment and then, and then outings and then a trip, because there's $10,000 in there. So why not go spend $1,500 on a Vegas trip? So unfortunately, that's when, you just are not, it's a recipe for disaster.
Sure.
Incorporating is what, like I said, makes the entire difference and changes the entire game. Once you incorporate, then obviously this check is going into your business account. Once it goes into your business account, then yes, you have to create different accounts. You create the account for Uncle Sam. So when you get that $10,000 check, it now goes $10,000 that's going into that business account. 3,500 is going into Uncle Sam, or 3,000, and now you have another 7,000. The other 7,000, maybe you want to put another 20% back into marketing, because again, the goal is to grow your business.
For sure.
So now out of that $7,000, you're putting another maybe $2,000 into that pool of marketing, and then the other money that you have remaining, at that point it goes into paying yourself. But into paying yourself, what does paying yourself include? Paying yourself includes money for your home, money for your retirement, money for your savings, money for your investing. So once understanding that part is where you realize, hey, making a $10,000 check doesn't mean that I have $10,000.
Yeah.
It means that I probably have $3,000 and I better continue working hard, because I need another, I need to keep this $3,000 checks coming in.
Yeah.
So that's really where the fruition of a business, of the growth of the business comes in.
Okay.
Really learning how to allocate these types of, really putting these accounts in place and knowing how to allocate your money and every check that comes in.
Sure.
And the mindset that comes with that, the mindset of the growth that comes with that, because now you're not holding on to that $10,000 check, or you're not holding on to that because you don't know when the next one's coming. That is the worst thing to do, because we're building this fear in our mind that nothing else is coming in.
Yeah.
And therefore we're limiting our mind, and I don't know if you believe in it, and I'm sure you do, because I see, you know, the person that you are, but you know, we attract what we believe.
Oh, for sure.
We attract
100%.
what we believe on a daily basis. And if we believe that we don't know when the next paycheck is coming, and we believe that we don't know if we're gonna have, you know, another $10,000 check coming anytime soon, that will definitely manifest in our lives.
Yep.
You
It's
know,
that
I'm
aura
not
that we put out there.
absolutely. It's not about being reckless with our money and spending it all because we know more is coming. It's not about that. It's about being smart with your money, but continue to work and believing that obviously more, you know, there's more money coming in and more
Yeah.
checks coming in. So being smart and being a good steward of your money is what really, you know, sets you apart and sets your business apart, and allows your business to grow.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I don't want to get too into it because I know that's something that you have to really sit down with somebody
Right.
and kind of dig numbers in.
Yes.
You know, because you are the money expert. I want to throw it in there.
Are
Come
you
on.
trademark that so you can sell it to me later? Is that what you're doing?
No, of course not. I would never do anything like that. You know, it's just business, right? I'm just playing with you.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So, what was I gonna say? Oh, I did want to comment. I know this is something that you do. You're a financial planner, right? And you do life insurance.
Right, that's one of the products that I sell. Yes.
One of the products, right?
Mhm.
And there's two things in life that are guaranteed. Now think about this. What is it? It's taxes and death,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And like I know we were talking about this earlier. Everyone prepares for taxes. At least some people prepare for taxes and getting ready to pay for taxes, right?
Yeah, some people. Yeah.
Some people, you know, the wealthy do.
Mhm.
I know for sure they do,
And that's where they're wealthy.
and that's why they're wealthy.
Correct.
Right. You know, but people don't really. I guess probably the wealthy do. People probably like in my circles or my community and so they don't really think about the death part. Right?
Never. Yeah, almost never. I mean, it's definitely changed, but yes, that's especially in our Latino community. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't think about. The most that I remember or that I see sometimes where they think about it is like they'll buy a lot. They'll think like, okay, if I have a lot, I'm good. I'm good to go.
Yeah. Why is I know.
It was it was like it was something that became very, very popular obviously a very long time ago, where it was like you bought your lot, and especially in our country, in Mexico and other Latin countries, that was it. That's all you need is your lot, right? And so for the Latino community, that's really, really popular, just buying your lot and you think you're good to go. Unfortunately, that's just not the case,
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, you'll discover that, oh, well, that's extra, and that's extra, and that's extra, that
Yeah.
none of that is included with your lot. And that's even if you finish paying it, right? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, as markets are evolving and industries are evolving, and obviously social media has taken us to a whole different level when it comes to a lot of industries just evolving and just marketing. I do see obviously the awareness of life insurance, even in the Latino community, where they're a little bit more aware of the importance of life insurance.
For sure.
It doesn't matter at what age they get it. They realize the importance of it, because it's not just the final expense. In a lot of cases, sometimes it gets to where the client, that's all they need at that point in their life. But it's not just the final expense. For a lot of people, it's the debt that they're leaving behind.
Yeah.
If they own a home, they're leaving that debt to their kids. If they have
Yeah.
credit card debt, if they own cars, they're leaving debt to their kids.
For sure.
If it's a business owner, even more of a reason to prepare, because guess what? The kids are going to be responsible not only for paying those employees, but paying the office, paying whatever that business is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you're leaving, as a responsibility for your kids or your next of kin, whoever it is that's going to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
And that can be very, very costly. You can be putting a lot of people in debt. There's a lot of things that can happen.
Yeah.
And then especially if there's a home, like I said, and you have all these other things that you didn't take care of, well now, you could probably even lose the home, and what you worked so hard for is now gone because it's used to pay the other things that weren't taken
Exactly.
care of. So you think you're leaving your family, your kids well off, you're saying, no, I'm leaving this house to them, and that might not be the case.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of cases where that wasn't the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at what age is like a popular age that you've been seeing people finally get policies at? Or at least thinking about.
Thinking about, it's all over the place.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the younger, the 20-year-olds, anything from 20 to 30, it's a lot harder for them to grasp
Sure.
the idea of protecting yourself in that manner, because especially a lot of the early 20s that I meet, they're all 100% risk. So and a lot of the times maybe they're just working, they're still with mom and dad, they don't necessarily see the need for it. And you know what, 20 years ago that was correct.
Okay.
A 25-year-old living at home with mom and dad, just working and paying his car or her car, maybe really no kids, no wife, maybe really didn't need the need for life insurance. There wasn't a pressing time to get the life insurance, but now the game has completely changed.
Sure.
And you're aware of this because you're a client, you see the importance of it. So now there's something called living benefits. So the living benefits are what changed everything in the game.
Sure.
Now that's why even your 2-year-old needs a plan, because living benefits mean that if let's say a 22-year-old has a $500,000 policy, and it's a term policy, so it's the most inexpensive thing you can get, right? They're probably paying, I don't know, $18 a month, $20 a month. If God forbid that 22-year-old is diagnosed with cancer, or God forbid there's a stroke, or there's a heart attack, or they lose their ability to walk, or their ability to get dressed or to feed themselves. Now they have access to $500,000 that they can tap into to continue living, to continue taking care of themselves.
And it has happened.
And absolutely. The new survey that came out for 2019 is that from the ages of 18 to, I believe, 30, or I forgot, it was 36 or something, that is the highest percentage of cancer diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, now there's 1 of 4 people that will be diagnosed with cancer. 1 of 4. I mean, we had 2 more people in here, we would know for a fact that one of us is getting diagnosed with cancer. So, these numbers, unfortunately and sadly, keep growing. At the same time, the survival rate for cancer also keeps growing. So what does that mean? That means that I could potentially be diagnosed with cancer, but I will survive, right? I will survive, and that just means that I'll probably be, home, I'll probably be going through chemo. There will be a lot of things during that diagnosis that will probably not allow me to work. And therefore, if I'm a 22-year-old or even a 25-year-old, and maybe I already have a child, or maybe I have a responsibility with a car or a mortgage or whatever it is, now none of that can be taken care of because now I'm not working. Now I'm taking time off of work. So that's the power of living benefits. The living benefit would allow this 22-year-old to be able to tap into that death benefit and continue to live. And the beauty of that is that all of that money is tax-free. So if somebody gets diagnosed with cancer at the age of 22, whether it's severe or mild, whatever it is, if he or she is asking for $100,000, that $100,000 comes in the mail tax-free.
Oh, okay.
So you know what I mean? So that's the power of living benefits. That changes the entire game. Now it's not back like where parents or grandparents used to have life insurance and only the wealthy would get it because it was just for when you were dying and they were just thinking of the wealth and the legacy they were leaving behind. Now it's more than that. Now even an 18-year-old should have life insurance. Because anything can happen at any time.
Oh, for sure.
You can these life insurance companies now give you the ability to tap into the death benefit if you lose 2 of your 6 ADLs. ADLs are activities of daily living. So our activities of daily living are that: getting dressed, going to the restroom, feeding ourselves, brushing our teeth, things like that. So if you lose 2 of those, then you also can tap into the death benefit. So again, it's super, super important now to be able to have to protect yourself against some of these things that can happen.
And the least costly is the one that's the term, right?
Right, the term, that's the most inexpensive way to get coverage. So there's a lot of options when it comes to life insurance. It really depends on the client's goals.
For sure.
But if we're talking about just, hey, I need coverage, I don't really have anything, and this is what I need, or just at least protect yourself from something like this. Terms is the way to go.
And I know like a lot of people that already work for like big companies, corporations, they get the life insurance with them, but I think a lot of people don't understand how much they actually get. Right? I mean, I didn't, and I looked into it, like, wow, this ain't nothing. Like, let's let me get another life insurance policy going on,
that has pros and cons. Always, because I mean, what are the chances that you will definitely retire with that company? For a lot of people, they're
likely not anymore.
right. For a lot of people, it's you know, you're not going to retire with that company.
Yeah.
So you know, the risk that you're running on, people might say, yeah, this is where I'm going to retire, and that's great. But even when you retire, you don't take that policy with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the policy stays.
And then also too, with corporations, that people that like, okay, I'm gonna retire here, right? But then things change.
Things
and
can
it's
change,
like, hey,
yeah.
you know what? You don't have that choice anymore.
Yeah.
You might be just like, oh,
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
It does happen
Yeah.
a lot now.
And now you find yourself sometimes maybe older, and sometimes maybe with a health condition that you know, enables you to get coverage somewhere.
Yeah.
So the younger you are, the sooner you want to jump into
Yeah.
to protecting yourself in a life insurance policy.
I believe that, especially like in the Hispanic community, we don't think about this kind of stuff. I'm sorry. I mean,
We don't.
it's just like,
We
all right,
don't.
we're just gonna work hard, hustle, and then next thing you know, they get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A lot of us do labor job, you know, and boom, they're on your back. You can't work no more.
Yeah.
Guess what? What are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I forgot to mention this, but when we were talking about 10 years ago when I was in corporate and what really kind of, you know, made me decide this is exactly where I need to be. I need to be doing something like this and sharing the possibilities of how you can protect your money, protect yourself, and really
Sure.
kind of leverage your money and assets. So yes, the majority of the reason was obviously the fact that I came from a business owner and I wanted to do this and I wanted to share these and learning, you know, what we can do. But the other big part of it was, you know, 10 years ago, learning that my dad had no money saved, you know, and that was never a conversation at home.
Yeah.
It was never like, let's sit, let's
Really,
talk
yeah.
about it. Hey, by the way, what are you doing with your money? Hey, there was never a conversation. Again, I thank my dad so much because he taught me the traits of working hard and, you know, not being afraid of selling and doing your own business and things like that. But money was never something that was spoken about. It was never like, this is what you need to do, honey, or this is what you shouldn't do. That was never the case. It was just work, make money.
Yeah.
And so obviously at this time, me being in corporate, this is 10 years ago, I come to the realization that my dad's getting sick, and then we're talking about like, well, you're okay, right? You can probably stop working, and no, because I don't have any money. So my dad didn't really have any money saved. Yes, he owned a home, but he didn't have any money saved. It was kind of like paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
You know? And so what happens is he eventually has to leave work because he can't, you know, he has a bad knee, or bad knees actually at that point. So in 2011, finally he just has to leave work. He can't, and has to retire early with Social Security.
Wow.
Taking a cut of 25% of your Social Security if you access it early.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you know.
He had no choice.
He had no choice.
Yeah.
He had no choice. If you would have waited to retirement age, he would have had the additional 25%. But because he has no choice, he has no savings, he can't work anymore, guess what? Now he's getting a cut of 25% of his social
Wow.
and having to just live off his Social Security, which is
Yeah.
not a lot.
Yeah.
So that just was the reason that I just thought there's no way that we can work this hard and end up with nothing.
Yeah.
Because the home is great, and I truly believe in real estate. I do. I think that's an important part of anybody's portfolio, and it can make you very wealthy, absolutely. But it shouldn't be the only thing you're counting on. Because here is a man that works really hard, that owns a home, but unfortunately cannot necessarily go break a wall off the house and have $10,000 in his hand.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, he owns a home, and it's up to the bank to give him money or not
Yeah.
at any point in time.
Yeah.
So while it's a great investment, if he's only counting with that one home and has nothing saved, has no liquidity, has no retirement buckets or anything like that, or any other investments, he's out of luck.
Yeah.
You know, he really can't do much.
And I think the sad truth is that a lot of people end up in that situation.
A lot,
Right.
unfortunately, because they're not educated on what are some of the tools that are accessible to them.
Yeah.
And they can. A lot of times, you know, our Hispanic people we're very hardworking, and a lot of people, not just our
Yeah.
Hispanic community. Obviously, we're referring to our Latinos, but
All communities, for sure.
all individuals, all races, any background. You know, we have hardworking people that have the ability to save money, that have the ability to put it somewhere else. But two things happen. One, either, you know, it's the procrastination. That's the number one like killer to our money. The procrastination of like, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And then the other thing, I come across a lot of clients that just get overwhelmed and confused, and they just don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
They want to start,
Yeah.
and they have the ability to start, but they, you know, they ask here and then they get one piece of information, and then they ask to someone else and then they get a different piece of information, and then they go online and they get a different thing, and so now we have information galore.
We do. There's a
You
lot of
know,
information out there.
A lot.
For sure.
That's
For sure.
we don't know that the information is not what's lacking.
Yeah.
You know, really what's lacking is finding somebody that you feel comfortable with, and that you want to be able to move forward with that person. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It comes down to that. And so I find a lot of people that are just like, well, I've been wanting to, but I just haven't, because I just don't know where to go. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't found anybody, or I haven't. And so it's sad because now their time is being wasted.
Yeah.
Their money growth is being, you know, being stalled because
Oh, for sure.
they haven't found anybody, and now they're being overwhelmed. And you're always going to be overwhelmed if you're searching there for something.
It happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
like it was never a perfect time for me to set up an appointment with you. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's like
And
that's just
pulling
how
the
it
trigger,
works.
and pulling the
Pull the
trigger, you
trigger.
know, just
Pull the
like,
trigger.
you know, a lot of clients have sat with me too, and then they get the info and they're like, okay, well, let me think about it, and, you know, it doesn't, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year for them to finally move forward.
Yeah.
But, you know, that time is precious time. The older
Sure.
we get, and every month that goes by is precious time for us and our money.
For sure.
Yeah.
If someone was trying to set up an appointment with you, Nayeli, how can they reach you?
They can reach me through my website.
Okay.
So my website is very simple. It's just my first and last name, nayeliballesteros.com.
Can you spell that for the people?
Nayeli.
Uh-huh.
That's Nayeli, and then Ballesteros is Ballesteros.
Okay.
Just sounds
Perfect.
like I just gave you the entire alphabet, huh? So nayeliballesteros.com. I'm in social media. I'm on Instagram, Mrs. Nayeli Ballesteros.
Okay.
I'm on, you know, Facebook.
Sure.
And so yeah, there's you know, my website and my phone number on all those sites.
Various ways to reach her. So please do. I
Yes.
did. So speaking as a client of yours, I'm very happy with the services. I actually really am. I sat down with you. You were able to break everything down for me, and I was like, okay, cool. I understand it. You know.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. We still got to sit down and figure some more stuff out, but you know, my business is finally growing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so I'm eager to keep working with you.
Yeah, one appointment is not going to be, you know, the last time that I get to sit with my clients,
Sure.
especially when it comes to growing your money and protecting your assets. That's something that every year will sit down and we'll review
Okay.
where you're at, what has changed. I think that's why I love the investment portion of it.
Sure.
More than just the life insurance portion of it, because the life insurance, I can just sell my client a life insurance policy, and if it's a term, it's a 30-year term or whatever, I don't really, you know, there's no need to just keep coming back and
Yeah.
revisiting that particular policy. But when it comes to something where like it's an investment,
Yeah.
you know, a solo 401k, a SEP IRA, an annuity, or anything that we're talking about investment, I love it because those things evolve, those
Sure.
things change as, you know, as you're growing, as your business is growing. There will always be maybe changes, different structures, and you know, things, different plans that we might incorporate, plans that we might leave.
Sure.
So I love that portion of it because it always keeps me connected to my clients.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I love being able to see the growth, being able to see the change, being able to know that, hey, there's something great that they're doing, not only for them, for their future, for their family. So I love
Sure.
that. Mm-hmm.
And for a person like myself going, you know, I still work the W-2. My whole shift concept is going from W-2 to 1099.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've actually changed it. I don't want to be 1099 now. I want to be corporation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So 1099, you get taxed like crazy. But from employee to possibly having their own business,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of advice would you give me in making that jump?
And going from W-2 to 1099.
Yeah.
Well,
Was it ever scary for you?
no, because that had already started that way, you know.
Yeah.
So it was never scary for me because I started so young,
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur and living off of, you know, my it wasn't even you know, 1099s from a company. It was my own. So it was checks, it was cash from my stores. So, you know, I was very confident with that already.
Sure.
As an entrepreneur, anybody that's in sales or an entrepreneur will tell you that, especially like manufacturing companies and sales like that will tell you that they'll always have, you know, cash in their pocket, and that was a great thing. You always have this constant, like, you know, trade of sales. And so I was never afraid of that. So it was never, leaving corporate was never, okay, can I do it? Can I not do it? Don't get me wrong, once you're in corporate, it's very comfortable to have that pay. I mean, I was very blessed to have a very good pay, especially being in the position that I had. I was, you know, at that time, I believe I was making $65 an hour.
Oh, wow.
You know, and this was back in 2009. So I was very, very blessed to be in that position. So that was probably the only thing. It wasn't the fear of, oh, now I'm going to be 1099. It was more the comfort. I was really comfortable.
Gotcha.
I was really comfortable, and as you know, as a business owner, or anything in our life that we want to try, comfort is not the way to start anything grand. You know, our comfort unfortunately prevents us from making and doing great things. So I was very comfortable, but that was something that was probably the hardest thing for me, just leaving the comfort of, you know, coming into the office from 8 to 5 and then leaving and then having all this free time. I knew that leaving that was going to go back to how it used to be when I had my own business, which was all day long. People think, oh, now that I'm going to go into my own business, you know, I'm going to have my own business, I'm going to work so much less, I'm going to have so much free time.
Probably not.
But it's not the case. Absolutely not. It's just in a whole different aspect that you have the free time. So no, I never had the fear. I would say that's the number one thing that you could remove from your mindset is the fear.
Okay.
Because the fear is what's gonna not let you make the right decisions. You make the right decisions.
Gotcha.
The fear is what's gonna stop you from, you know, taking risks. The fear is what's gonna stop you from making certain you know, taking certain steps to get you to the next level. So fear is the one enemy that's gonna prevent you from success.
Sure.
So I would say probably just don't fear. Are you gonna fail sometimes? You're gonna fail. Are you gonna mess up sometimes? You're gonna mess up. Are you gonna wish you would have made a different decision? But that's the beauty of it, and that's the best part about being a business owner, that those things that you come across, whether it's a fail, whether it's a bad decision, whether it's, you know, I should have taken that opportunity, all of these things are we gonna teach you, you know, teach you and get you to the success that you need. That's where the growth happens.
There you go.
That's where the growth happens, you know?
Don't fear the growth, baby.
No, the growth happens in falling and getting up. That's when the growth happens. The growth happens in failing in something or not, you know, not making the right decision and then learning from that.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. So I would say just